Okay, we're back with the top 10 list, and now we get into my top 10 favorite My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episodes. Now, I can say that, yeah, there are a lot of good episodes. Now, with this list, there might be some surprises that you wouldn't think would probably be in here, but to me personally, I kind of really like these episodes. So yeah, bottom, not that much. The top usually is the best ones. Okay. So yeah, let's begin at number 10. Fall Weather Friends. Now, this episode involves both Applejack and Rainbow Dash trying to compete with each other, but then they decide that, you know, the competition should begin with some kind of race that's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, Fall Weather Friends, and Twilight competes in it, and so when they compete, somehow they try to pull tricks on each other, but then sometimes there's not tricks, and so it's just really fun to see these characters interact with each other. And also in a sense it's kind of weird because they're voiced by the same person, but it's kind of, you know, in a way it's hard to tell the difference, and in some ways you can tell the difference. It's probably a little lacking, but you can see that these, you know, it's like really fun. I liked watching the interactions with, you know, Twilight trying to just, you know, pass on by, and pretty much eventually she doesn't win the race, but she at least passed most of them and even beat Applejack and Rainbow Dash in a race, and it's just surprising and funny in a way. And I really like the competitive sports in this episode. It's just really fun to just see, you know, trying ways of Rainbow Dash, just in a way she's kind of cheating, but you know, she's just trying to have fun with it. So I really like this episode for its, you know, its jokes, its humor. It's well done, and I really like the race. The race, in fact, is kind of exciting when you really look at it. I love the falling of the leaves. You know, it's just really that kind of effort put in there, that these leaves are like falling like gradually. You can see the leaves fall gradually as, you know, as you move on, and it's just a beautiful image by the end of the episode. Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, on to number 9. Equestria Games. Now, in a sense, I thought I would really, you know, at first I kind of hated this episode for, you know, just being another Spike episode, and many people were expecting this to be an episode involving the games. At first, I was one of those people who did not understand why they went this direction, but then after looking at some people's perspective, when you look at Rainbow Falls, it kind of makes sense, I guess, you know. But then I started really looking at this episode and found out, you know, a good Spike episode. Yeah, it involves Spike trying to somehow burn some kind of flame. Like, I think this is kind of similar to that episode in Pokemon where Ash tries to bring some kind of flames to just, you know, start the Pokemon tournament in the Pokemon Stadium, and I think the same way Spike is trying to light up the torch, but then you know, at first he's very nervous, you know, after the fame kind of gets into his head. And we get to this point where Spike is, like, you know, accidentally, he thinks that he did light the torch at the second time, but Twilight did it for him, and he feels like maybe he's not the best person to just be confident about this, and so then he gets confidence after some kind of weird event thing happens where some kind of big ice cloud ends up destroying the Equestrian Games, but then Spike saves the day with his power flame. Something, it kind of reminded me a bit of Spyro, and yeah, he pretty much learns a lesson to just be more confident of himself and just, you know, do his best and be there for his friends. And I really did like this episode, that how it worked out, because usually in Spike episodes I feel like there's just too much comedy put in there. There's just too much every single Spike episode has something to do with comedy. Something funny has to happen, or something devious has to happen. And with this episode, I felt like it was kind of very mature. It was, very well written, I can tell you that. And it was one of those rare Spike episodes where we actually like this character. And this was during season 4. And you would think this would continue on until, season 5, but it didn't. Too bad. Too bad. But I think probably this is my favorite Spike episode. I think it's one of my only favorite Spike episodes. I mean, that last episode, I forget the name, it's kind of hard to pronounce. But I didn't like that one personally, but I did like this episode so much. It was just a well done episode, and it just felt really good. Okay, on to the next one. Amending Fences. Now, probably many of you people think that this would be number 1. I think it would be a lot of people's number 1 for many reasons. I've already talked about this episode before, but I'll just get into a little bit about it. The episode just pretty much involves Twilight trying to make amends with her other friends, including one called Moondancer, who she somehow had a great friendship with her, but then they lost their friendship. Now Twilight has to figure out how to get their friendship back. What I really, really like about this episode is definitely the conversations of these characters. You can just feel there's a huge history with them. Well, in a sense, because even though we don't know too much, we at least know as much enough that Twilight actually did have friends in the past. But I don't know, there's always this hammering back in previous seasons that Twilight never had real friends, that she's always been, people have wondered that, wait, didn't Twilight have no friends back in the day? But no, she actually did have friends. She had this one friend that, maybe I think what the past seasons tried to say, that Twilight had friends, but she didn't really interact with them as much as she could have. She was too busy on her study. But I felt with this episode, it's really a personal episode. There's also reference to Sonic the Hedgehog, if you didn't catch it. By the end of the episode, there's this really emotional scene, and it's just perfect writing. And at one point in the episode, I kind of felt that they were going to go into a bad point, but they actually tried something different, and it's so good. It's really, really good. I like where Twilight tries to make a decision here, and it's probably one of the best decisions she's ever made, and it's just so well written, so well done. I cannot say much more. You just have to see the episode for yourself. Okay, on to number 7. The Cutie Chronicles. Now, personally, I really like this episode in a sense that you would think, you're probably wondering, wait, better than Amending Fences? Yes, in a sense. I'm not saying better, with a list, you're trying to put up, I was thinking to my head, getting to the point of where it could be really good. And I felt that the Cutie Chronicles, in a sense, is a very good episode because we learn the history and origins of our characters, of our main characters, even though the story's being told through, the Cutie Mark Crusaders trying to discover how to get their cutie marks. And it's just a really well done episode. So the Cutie Mark Crusaders are trying to find their cutie marks. So one way they could do it is trying to ask the main 6 of how they got their cutie marks, and they tell about how they got their cutie marks in the first place. And there's some funny stories, some of them actually kind of short. And I just found that it's really done, but then you start to realize some kind of big point. All of these stories somehow lead into a connection, and this is probably, it's kind of like Spike said, a little sappy and really, really corny. But but it's just very nice that we actually found out even before they ever met each other that these characters had a connection with each other, a really, really big connection, and it never would have happened. And it's just really well done, really well put, and it's just a really well done episode. I just really like it. Though I found the ending not that great. I felt it was, like I said, a little sappy. It's just a little bit too much. But I still felt it was a good episode overall, learning about these characters, learning about where they came from, and just how it was. So yeah. So on to the next one. Party of One. I think probably the reason why I like this episode so much is because of the performance, the voice acting performance of Andrea Lidman playing as Pinkie Pie. She just puts her all in this episode when it comes to the insanity. So this episode involves Pinkie Pie trying to, at first gives invitations to her friends, for a party. She likes to party, I guess, every single Saturday or something. So then they have a party, but then the next day she said that maybe they should have another party, but then they reject her invitation and decide not to go, and Pinkie Pie's wondering what's going on. And so she gets Spike to just tell her like what's wrong with her friends. And she kind of puts out the point that maybe they're trying to ignore her or just not want to be friends with her anymore. But, that was kind of like, you have to watch the episode to understand what I'm talking about. So then Pinkie Pie goes insane, like over the top performance, well, like not at its best, but like over the top in a way that it's hilarious just to watch. You just feel the insanity, and it's kind of scary in a way. It's really, really scary, like when you really look deep into this, how she's going. And so then Rainbow Dash comes in, drags Pinkie Pie to the apple farm, and then we find out that it was Pinkie Pie's birthday, and she didn't even know her own birthday. Now, right there, it could have been a whole mess, and it just wouldn't make any sense, because even for Pinkie Pie, how could she forget her own birthday? I mean, that's kind of, doesn't make any sense in a way, but, watching the entire episode and how she's trying to figure out clues of what's going on, it's just so fun to watch, and her interaction of trying to get some answers with her friends, it's just a very fun episode. I found it just had a lot of great things on it. Okay, yeah, nothing much to say. It's just really fun and wacky. On to the next one. Lesson 0. Now, imagine if Party of One and its over-the-top performance done 10 times better. And Lesson 0 is pretty much how I put it out. With Lesson 0, it's just hilarious. Tara Strong just puts it all out, just literally puts it all out, and just puts her over-the-top performance, with Twilight's character. And it's just funny to watch. Like, maybe I would find this creepy, but it's just kind of creepy in a way, but, like, I kind of like, in a way, sense, like, dark comedy. That's one thing. I like all kinds of comedy. I like lighthearted comedy, mean-spirited kind of comedy, and dark comedy, or even a sense of regular comedy, or even stupid comedy, like Dumb and Dumber. But, like, with this episode, it involves Twilight finding out that she hasn't wrote another friendship letter again. And this is the episode where finally Celestia tells everyone where her friends can now write letters instead of only just her to, what lesson they have learned. So yeah, we pretty much finally get that. But then, but before the episode gets to that, we get these things where Twilight tries to find some friendship problems and nothing comes up, and she might be tardy or some reason. She literally goes to the point, maybe she'll be sent back to Magic Kindergarten, and there's some fourth wall jokes that happen, and it's just hilarious just to see her over the top. The only thing I don't like about this episode is that the Cutie Mark Crusaders, I just felt like they were pointless in a way. Like, they're just there for like 2 seconds, and then even the town is there. Like, you might be saying like, oh, but it was the point of the episode that but it was the point of the episode where they were just, they were part of the act. Like, but I don't know, I just felt like the town, or was kind of pointless, just to bring that whole big problem just for Celestia, just to save it in the end. I don't know, it's just really funny. I still find it kind of funny, but what really brings it up to the point where Twilight goes insane. Like, when you look at her face, that's the face of insanity. There's even a scene where it's like a Lord of the Rings Gollum. Like, Gollum, like, oh my gosh, like, it's just... it's a joy to watch her. Like, it's just a high joy. A really, really high joy just to see Tara Strong put her all out in this character. Like, it's just hilarious how she goes over the top. And even, like, for some reason, she just chews everything up. Like, she's eating everything in the background and the foreground, and you can't focus on anything else but her. It's just so funny. But, like, it's just a really funny episode when you get into it, and yeah, you do feel bad for her, and I do feel like the lesson in the end was executed well. Yeah, it's just an overall really good episode. Just saying. Next one. Rarity Takes Manhattan. Okay, you know how I always say that I don't like this character, she never learns anything? Well, this was the first time where two great things have happened. One, Rarity finally got an episode where her generosity is actually meaningful, and where I personally liked the episode when it came out. And second, this was probably the first episode for Dave Polsky. This was the first episode Dave Polsky wrote where instead of just writing his regular comedy, he actually tries to write, an episode that's like, that has nothing to do with comedy. He tries to write something different. And yeah, it's done so well in this episode. I felt that in a way that Rarity does a good job at just trying to be her, but also trying to know what she loves. And so yeah, the episode's about her trying to go to Manhattan. I know, just stick with it. So they go to Manhattan, and she's entering in some kind of fashion contest where her dress will probably be picked to be one of the best fashion of the seasons of this year, I guess. And there's these really funny references in the town. And then there's like a musical number. I'm not too much a big fan of a musical number, but I'll take it, I guess. So yeah, we find out that Rarity is so pushing her friends to help her out, and it just gets to a point where maybe she's gone too selfish and should have not done that, and tries to make it up to them, probably risking her chance into trying to win the competition. And we see this new character, Coco Pomel. She eventually becomes a recurring character in the show. Then it's just so wonderful just to see like actually this character learn something by the end. I think I forgot to mention that during this conflict, it was that some kind of character named Zuri who somehow steals her idea, and then it leads up to that point where she just tries to make a new dress, leading her friends to that. I forgot. Sorry, I kind of forgot to mention that. Yeah, so what I really like about this episode, like I said, is the writing. I like that Rarity is actually trying to learn something, and her generosity, her element of generosity, is actually being put out through this episode. I felt that, it was really nice of her to do a lot of things in this episode, and that she learns the value of what it is of true friendship in this episode, and what she should have done, and making the right choices. I didn't like too much. I felt the ending was not too much that great, but I do like it that it tried to go to that. It didn't had a subtle point. Like, we kind of find out about that little thing, that little, I think, tweet of string, thread, was kind of part of one of the keys. You know, it's kind of a little obvious, but I still felt it was really good. It was really good in a sense. I still felt it was a really good episode. It was well written. Great job, Dave Polsky. You did a really excellent job with this episode. And so, yeah, nothing much to say. Next one. Family Appreciation Day. Now, this is an episode that I can actually, kind of, relate to in a way. I had once in my point where I've been embarrassed by my own parents, just trying to interact with, my friends, or just trying to, at school, trying to be, good. I actually understand what Apple Bloom is going through in this episode. What happens is that Apple Bloom, has to find a family member to be part of the Family Appreciation Day, so she can, it's kind of showing and tell, her parents of what they could do, what is her family about, what's the history of her parents, and Granny Smith is chosen to do that. The episode gets into the point where she does not want that to happen to her. She doesn't want Granny Smith. She feels like Granny Smith is going to embarrass her in a way, and she starts to realize that. But she's obviously made fun of Diamond Tiara. This was before she was developed. With this scenario, I felt that it's kind of possible that this was at the time. You would think that you would be embarrassed. I felt it was a really good episode. I actually there was this one part where it kind of felt like Weekends at Bernie's, and I did like that her friends tried to help her out, but, in a situation it couldn't. But by the end of the episode, you kind of discover that Granny Smith and her family are the reason why Ponyville exists. And that was just one of the best things to know. It's like, wow, they're actually really putting this out in a way. And it's just really nice that they would do this. And it's just, I think the episode's really good. See it for yourself. It's really good. Next one. The Crystal Empire. Now, why do I like this episode? For many reasons. For one thing, the Star Wars references, and also the Crystal Empire itself. I mean, the design of the Crystal Empire, though we don't see it really in its entirely yet, but the design of how it looks, of how it is, how there's somehow a world full of ponies that are made of crystal. I think they made a joke about this, but don't you think when you push them a little bit, don't you think they would break? Are they just crystal on the outside, or it's in the inside too? Because you have to really think about this in a detailed sense. And another reason is because this is probably one of the only two-part episodes. Usually, for some reason, I'm not a fan of the two-parters in this episode. I've only liked certain ones, not all of them. But with this one, I can give an exception because I felt that the villain in the episode, I still felt the villain was weak, but the way that the main six and the rest of the characters try to figure out what to do and trying to find the crystal, and Spike having his shining moment by the end of not Twilight, but him trying to save the day. There is this one uncomfortable scene where they kind of look into some kind of dark, futuristic there's a scene where Twilight and Spike kind of look into their dark inner fear and their future, it's kind of in a way not it's kind of uncomfortable in a way, though we never find out what Spike, we never really look at Spike and what his problems, we never really look at it, but it's kind of scary in a way when you actually think about it. And also, I don't know if people noticed, but didn't that scene where both Twilight and Spike going up, trying to get the crystal heart, didn't that kind of remind you of the, if anyone's played Ocarina of Time, didn't that remind you of the staircase of Ocarina of Time? Because, I don't know, it kind of felt that way. But like I said, this episode has a lot of good things on it. The comedy is great. The writing is great. I really like the interactions between the characters, and also maybe some of the singing is, not that bad, though I'm not a fan of the end song. Twilight getting her reward by the end, feeling good, it just feels like a natural, normal episode. I really like the crystal ponies. They're like, very interesting. I really like to know more about the crystal pony and how the empires, like, how are they crystal in the first place? Because I like to know, like, it's kind of very wondering to know that. It's just really nice, really good episode. It's one of the best. Okay, now on to my favorite episode. Let's begin. Make new friends, but keep discord. What do I have to say about this episode? It's just, you might be saying, really, a Discord episode you're liking? Is it because you also like John Delancey? No, it's not because of like I said, I like his performance, but the reason why I like this episode is obviously because of the writing. The writing is one of the best the show has ever done, and it's like, for one thing, I love comedy, and this episode has a huge amount of comedy in it, and it's really, really good. I love the comedy in this episode, and some of the references, one of them being Metal Gear, it's just very, very good. For one thing, so yeah, this episode's about Discord, somehow finding out that there's another gala happening. He tries to, like, get Fluttershy to be part of the gala. She thinks to invite him, but no. Fluttershy is going with someone known as Tree Hugger, which is some kind of hippie or something. She goes with her instead, and so Discord feels jealous, and tries to be the center of attention in the gala, trying to get others to go with him, but doesn't work. And it just leads up to just probably a very nice moment where he just learns his lesson by the end of the episode. And yeah, one thing I do have to say is that what's so great about this episode is obviously its humor. Like, the jokes are just spot on. Like, I don't think I've not seen a joke in that episode that doesn't work. Every time I watch this episode, I have like a good laugh out of it. Like, and for one thing, I can actually, because this is an episode I highly relate to in a way, because there were points in my life where, I've been in a party and I tried to be the center of attention, but it never worked out. And I felt that maybe I was just thinking about myself in a way and not thinking about others. I feel Discord's pain. I feel what he's going through. And it's just one episode that just really puts it out, just putting everything. They're putting their all out. We also get introduced to the schmooze. I think that's what it's called, the schmooze. And it's not as, a lot of people said that the schmooze wasn't that great because, like, it wasn't what they were expecting, but eventually by the end it did get better. And the only thing, I think the only nitpick is that I felt that these some of the main characters were kind of pointless. Of they think they're gonna help out in the end, and I think some of the I think that some of the some of it doesn't make any sense. Like, they get stuck in the schmooze, and somehow Celestia can't bring out her powers, even though she's considered to be the most powerful princess. Like she's somehow known as the most powerful alicorn, and she somehow can't get out of this small situation, nor could Twilight. They're all stuck, and even Rainbow Dash can't get out. And it's just so weird that it's just painful. It's just, wow. I cannot believe it. But like I said, another good thing is that scene with Maud. I love Maud Pie. She's an amazing character. She's amazing. Like, that scene pretty much cemented the point of, this is a timeless character who will not get old and not be funny, because I pretty much love this character so much. It's just that she's one of the reasons why I like this episode. it's just like, I feel like it's an episode that I can go back to every single time I watch it and always have a smile on my face when watching it, because it's just a really funny episode. It's so well written. The references to certain movies, you know, it's kind of strange, but it still works very well. And I just felt that it's just so well done. The execution on the lesson was done very well. It's just one of the most well done, and it ended perfectly. It's just a really well done episode. I personally like it, and it's an episode I will watch many times in the future. Okay, so yeah, that was my top 10, my favorite episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Okay, getting on. Black Belt Dragons signing out, and I'll see you into the next top 10 list. See you guys later, and okay, gotta go. Black Belt Dragons signing out again. Don't do anything and. Oh no, not again.